to the Show Banff Show. My name is Sage, or All the Rage Sage, and here on the Show Banff Show, we celebrate startup culture, what people are up to, and mental health. And guess what? We have an amazing guest here today. You might recognize him from being on the show before, or maybe today's your first time. So, do you want to reintroduce yourself?
Hi there, I'm Jessia Arsenio, and I'm running for Banff Town Council.
Oh yeah. What made you want to run?
It was a bit of a gradual process. If you were to ask me 2.5 years ago if I thought I'd be running for municipal politics, I would have kind of balked at the idea.
Nah.
Yeah. Like my most frequent engagement with politics has usually been at the provincial level since I've moved to Banff. Provincial politics is a little hairier, and I was not going to run for anything. I don't have much faith in party politics. But municipal politics is very different, and like the longer I've been here, like the more I've had to engage with administration in different parts of the town. And I started getting won over by the idea as soon as people started asking me, probably around late last year, like, oh, hey, are you considering a run for council? Like, people assumed that's what I was doing, and that was surprising to me.
Yeah, but I'm running.
No, but then it was a dialogue I started entertaining more and more, and I had a good conversation with Karen Sorensen, and she said, yeah, why not? She gave me she filled some of the gaps in my knowledge where what goes into the role, and I think I was mostly accurate. But after that conversation, I didn't really have an excuse anymore.
Yeah.
So
now it's like the mayor talked to you.
Oh yeah. No, but it's no, it wasn't like that. Like I did have to be kind of won over initially, but then I was like, okay, you know what? Let's do this whole hog. And I announced, hey, I intend to run back in January. So I feel like I've been on the campaign trail for the whole year.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Your microphone is just getting a little squished there. We might have to move it a little. Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
That silly little thing. Awesome. Thank you. Beautiful. And because you've had all this experience and people pushing, and even your background and stuff, what do you want to bring forward? What are you so passionate about that you want to bring to the table?
Well, I mean, I grew up in Niagara Falls, and I have a sense.
Cool. I want to go there someday.
Oh, it's really cool, but I mean, there's a very different model of tourism and the relationship with the environment there, and it's very different from what you see here. I mean, we are in the middle of a national park, so I see a strong need to preserve that sensibility, and I think I bring a rightfully critical voice on some issues. Very often my involvement in the community has been identifying gaps in services or where people feel a little bit left out and trying to cultivate something a bit more compassionate there. And I just see being on council as a continuation of that work as a community organizer, and that's very much been my approach to campaigning. I'm trying to build it on relationships.
That's amazing, and reach out to people, see where the need is, and where do you feel the need is right now?
Well,
mostly?
I mean, one of the things that I noted in a piece I put on my campaign site is that we have a slight disenfranchisement problem, in that our local industry will say we really rely on seasonal workers and temporary foreign workers. Those people don't have the right to vote. And they experience a deep sense of alienation in our housing market. So I want to make sure that those people's needs are spoken for. And I think people understand that's very much where I'm coming from as a newcomer to town. But I think it's an important perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it can be a struggle sometimes too, for sure.
It's a struggle, and I think that's something you see across Canada right now. The housing market's not friendly anywhere you go in many respects. However, in Banff, very often your housing is tied to your employment. It's tied to, the social support network that you often, have to develop when you move here. Yeah. So there's a bit more at stake for people in Banff, I think.
That's amazing. Mm-hmm. And how are you going to create this more of a welcoming atmosphere, get people involved? Do you have an idea how you want to do that? I mean,
you can look to, I come from a background of community organizing that was quite explicitly outside nonprofits and governance. I was very often with activist communities, and with those kind of relationships, you really do have to involve people in solutions. So, for example, this is a fun idea I had before I decided to run that I don't see any reason why we couldn't do. We see a lot of people come here. They buy a bike on buy and sell. They don't treat it that well. It's not a good bike to begin with.
Definitely.
There's also a lot of bike technicians and talent in town. To encourage the community to develop their own kind of community fleet for bicycles that's well maintained and available throughout town. That's a really nice way to involve people in active transport. They'd be developing very much their own infrastructure on their own terms, and that gives people a strong sense of self-determination and meets policy goals, whether that's the municipality doing it or something very self-initiated. To me, that's just more options for me, really, and for us, those are the kind of things we could pursue.
That's awesome, and there's so many ways you can go with this.
Yeah, and I think a lot of those solutions are also kind of low cost. You're asking for people's involvement, and you do have to nurture it a little bit, but it's not as expensive as tearing out a sidewalk and putting a bike lane in, or you want to build the culture at the same time as well.
Yes, and I like how you're thinking of that, like both sides of it, which is very cool.
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of the problems we're facing, they're systemic issues that are rooted in the way we live our lives. So you do have to consider, how do you produce social and cultural change in addition to political change? And my most straightforward way of doing that was through developing Overheard in Banff. That was not something I did on my own, but having something where you develop a sense of community ownership and direction and respond to people's concerns, there's clear value in that, and I think it was a good thing to have during COVID, certainly.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing that begins with social and cultural change. Overheard in Banff was built on workplace culture. When people move here, it's something that's recommended to them by their new coworkers or roommates. So yeah, that's a way you can see change in our media ecosystem be rooted in something social and cultural first.
That's a great idea, and building that up, I really like that.
Absolutely, and there's no way of going about it outside doing the hard work of building it, and that's again very much how I would see my place on council. I want to not give up how I do my public engagement historically or during my campaign. I very much want that to continue. That's central to my values.
That's incredible, and I really like it. Plus the experience you're bringing back with it. Do you want tell the audience some of your experiences behind this, in deeper depth?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I could give a absolutely. I mean, there are certain things that are covered by the need for disclosure. Very often, I'm responding to people that are experiencing issues with mental health, with alcohol and substance use, with their housing, their employment. And, for sometimes legal reasons, I can't just be, doing it all very publicly. Sometimes it ends with me recommending somebody to a lawyer.
Yeah.
But for example, I'll give you a broad overview of how I spent my pandemic days.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah. So I mean, when it first kind of emerged, there was a spat of protests against cuts to nurses' wages. So I was very happy to be on the front lines of that and working with organizers to make sure that we had, a powerful message and good turnout. And then, when the pandemic was, that was kind of read immediately before the pandemic, but when it actually happened, as soon as I got the first sniff that something was happening, I said, okay, well, let's distribute some sanitation supplies, food, let's make sure people feel safe. And, then we returned to normal a little bit. And, I found the workplace just much more uncomfortable. So I dropped everything and went to Lethbridge. And what happened there was they had lost their supervised consumption site due to what seemed to be plainly ideological reasons by the UCP. And there was people that had lost a life-saving service.
Yeah.
And the people that were trying to address it were the same people that worked at the SCS, but were now doing it on an entirely volunteer basis in the streets, and competing with protesters and cops. So it was very fraught, and having dealt with people that are trying to get past substance use issues, I mean, it spoke to me in a very fundamental way. So I went there, and it was again very community initiated,
Yes.
and outside what appear to be formal bodies doing that work, because the formal body said no. So yeah, I did that for winter, and then
That's incredible.
I came
Like,
back.
Good for you.
Well, I mean, it's it's work that I felt like I had to do. So there's like I felt like not like necessarily like loyalty and duty bound to do it, but a little bit. And then I took that that ethic back with me when I came back to Banff and started campaigning.
That's amazing, and good for you for just going for it. And like wherever there's a need, I've noticed you always go and help. Like
Yes, yeah, and I mean, another good example is when the Estonian Nakota had their food bank shut down due to a COVID outbreak. I raised the flag saying, hey, we gotta stock them up and make sure those food are taken care of. And we got hundreds of pounds of food aid over there, and that was in a matter of days.
That's incredible. Like seriously incredible. And one thing we're asking all candidates is basically if you don't get in, what are you planning to do?
Well, I say that like I see my position on council as being a continuation of my work as a community organizer, but it's not like that work would stop if I didn't get elected. So for me, it's almost no difference. I still see a need to develop civil society. I still see a need to, offer very substantive critiques against the Trainlands development. There's things that still need to be done, regardless of whether or not I'm in office. But being elected would be nice.
Yeah. It would be a bonus to what you're already doing.
Yeah, and I like that it would also provide the community like a level of transparency and accountability over what I'm hoping to do as well. Like people have often ask like, what is it that you do? And it'd be a lot nicer if it was in a leadership and governance position for me at this point.
That's amazing, and you can totally rock it.
I mean, I like the vote of confidence.
You got this, Josiah. Yeah. And because we're running out of time here, is there anything else you want to tell the audience, or like why they should vote for you, or anything you have strong feelings towards?
Yeah, I'm a very reluctant campaigner sometimes. It feels very self-aggrandizing. But no, I will say this, that like we face some very significant generational challenges going forward. And regardless of what happens in this election, we need to demand to be involved in whatever process we see going forward. So that's the strongest recommendation I can make. Please vote for me. But
check them out.
But absolutely vote your conscience, and even if you disagree with me, understand that you need to be involved in the process going forward, and I'm looking forward to that process as well.
And where can people check you out if they want to know more?
What's fortunate is that I happen to be very Googleable. If you just type Jessia Arsenio Banff into Google, you get a lot of my stuff. But I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. My campaign site is my name, Jessia Arsenio, but the IO at the end there's a dot before there, so jesiaharsen.io.
Yes.
We'll put a link in there so it's a bit more straightforward.
Exactly. Just click the link down below. I'll have them send it to me.
Perfect.
Awesome. Thank you so much for watching, and Josiah, thank you so much for coming in, and good luck.
Thanks for having me.
I'm cheering for you.
Hey!
Awesome. Thanks, you guys.